الحمد لله الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وإذ تأذن ربكم لئن شكرتم لأزيدنكم ولئن كفرتم إن عذابي لشديد صدق الله العظيم مولاي صل وسلم دائما أبدا على حبيبك خير الخلق كلهم محمد سيد الكونين وثقلين والفريقين من عرب ومن عجم السلام عليكم والسلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين. Alhamdulillah, by the immense fadl of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wa azza wa jal, it is a great honor. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chooses amongst His servants who will be used in the service, and used as a khadim of this religion. And really it comes down to the very core fundamentals as to how and why a person will progress on the path toward Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When you look at the blessed sunnah of the Prophet alayhi salatu salam, and you look at the lives of the Sahaba, the lives of the awliya Allah, we see a very common theme. And it is not at a shock, or it is not without the immense wisdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that history will forever repeat itself. At that time, at the time of the Prophet alayhi salatu salam, it is very easy looking back into history and think, maybe if I lived in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, I would be a Muslim, or I would be amongst those people that have been chosen by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to represent the Prophet ﷺ in one of the most highest ways. The Khulafa, the representatives of the Prophet ﷺ, were firm upon the sunnah, the haqq and the truth. However, time moves on, people move on, generations move on, things change, people change, mentalities change. But what is it that keeps us connected to the divine presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to the divine commandments? And that is where we are introduced to this concept of tasawwuf. You see, when a person takes a sheikh or takes a guide, the guide has one purpose: to purify you, to teach you the ways of purification, the ways to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The word tasawwuf in its most simplest application, tasawwuf means to purify the soul. To purify the soul. What is the soul? Also known as the nafs, the inner deep desires. The desire, the appetite for needs, the appetite for money, the appetite for wealth, the appetite for relationships, the appetite for friendship. This is all part of the nafs. People may ask the question, why do I have to purify my body first? Why do I need to purify my mind or my heart? Why can't I just purify my soul? Yes, there has been times where people have come to the presence of the teachers and the mashayikh, and have almost immediately been put onto the third or fourth stages. But these times were very different. One wisdom that has been shown by our beloved teacher, Hazrat Shaykh Ahmed Dabbagh, is that there are multiple barriers between us and that level of purification. The level from the body, the mind, the heart, and the nafs. There are many obstacles, many tests, many fitnas that will block a person from achieving this high level of tazkiyah. And really it has come to fruition, it has come to its reality. That question that I have just asked, I have almost debunked it immediately. That why can I not just purify my soul? How many of you who have done the tongue sheet have failed on the tongue sheet? On first or second try, third try, fifth try, 10th try, 100th try. The eyes, the ears, the mind, a person cannot even prevent sin in the mind. With the heart we have jealousy, arrogance, ignorance, self-likeness. All these qualities are emitting in the heart. They are part of the structure that we perceive to others. And you're talking about purifying the desire. The desire is a mere thought. It's almost as though an atom in comparison to actual physical doing and actions. It's like the mashayikh have recently told us about the desire to have infinite wealth, infinite women, infinite slaves, infinite cars, infinite houses, the biggest house, the best car, the most money, the most women. This desire is a natural desire people will have. But why is it that they cannot achieve these, or at least feel some level of fulfillment or level of contentment? The sole reason is that before that desire is purified, there are other elements that require purification before you even feel that level of tazkiyah. Because we have become such people that we are almost driven by materialism. We can pick up our phones, we can open up Amazon, open up the internet, and we can window shop for hours and hours and hours. These shoes, this jumper, this coat, this handbag, this purse. Where is it all stemming from? It is like almost a clear picture and guidance that from the very beginning you have almost manipulated and intoxicated your mind with this filth. That you have almost made this your ilah, these desires. You only worship for something in return. How many of us deeply and truly inside themselves can say, I worship Allah for Allah? How many of you internally can deeply say, I worship Allah for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wa azza wa jal? Almost 0.000% of people will worship Allah, 0.001% maybe will worship Allah for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So now that we're on this theme of desire, where's the door, please? If thingy is better, maybe that you even lock the door. That we don't want any noise, because a person, even one thingy can distract a person. It is like they say, almost that it is like a person could be in a very important position. He could be almost in like, I am in a very important place, maybe in an interview, or he's in a position where he needs to concentrate, he needs to focus, he needs to think. And a fly or mosquito goes by. A fly or mosquito flies by. And then everyone starts looking at the fly. If the fly lands on him, he starts patting his mind. He starts patting himself, hitting himself. Where's the fly? This is what happens. Even the smallest thing, the door opens, the window opens, the beep comes on the clock, everyone quickly, suddenly, like, they lose concentration. So that is why it is almost very important. And this is why I am a firm believer of less is more. Because when there is more people, when there is lesser people, it can be a little bit more directed, a little bit more personal. To each and every desire almost can be covered, and it can be related to oneself. Before lockdown began a couple of years ago, we were covering the discourses based on the kitab of Sayyidina Abdul Qadir al-Jilani rahmatullahi alayhi, the unveilings of the unseen, whereby there are 50 or so discourses in this book. And each of them have different lessons and a different variety of lessons that we can obtain, some fruitful thought, some life lessons, some guidance that we can maybe obtain and start to use productively in our day-to-day life. And we covered up to 10 discourses. I got up to the point where it was talking about carnal appetite. And what is the carnal appetite? It's a bodily desire. It's something that relates to the body. It's something that relates to the body, i.e. feelings. Something that is sensual, meaning that it is from a sensual organ. Private parts, tongue, eyes, ears, etc. Something that has an input and output. And also pleasure. So that is a three in order. So sensual, feeling, and the pleasures. Sayyidina Abdul Qadir al-Jilani rahmatullahi alayhi mentions, suppose the arrival of your desires occurs at a point where marriage, so they give an example here, where marriage would be far too expensive for one in your impoverished condition. So they gave an example of a person who they have the sudden urge of marital desire, and they deem themselves, maybe we are too poor to fulfill the elements of marriage. And they gave an example and said that person controls himself in patient expectation of relief from the Maker Azza wa Jal. by His power, He may remove the urge engendered and aroused in you by that very power, and thus relieve you of it. So they gave an example that if in this moment you seek Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so rather than the desire is nothing but a temptation, a calling from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, a reminder. That's what these desires really are built upon. They're built up, if you look within the fabrics of a desire, it is all something related to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when they say is that you seek Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's fulfillment, He will achieve this level of fulfillment. He may also enable you to lead a virtuous life without having to bear the burden of marriage. So they've also conferred and even mentioned that marriage for some people is a burden. And from this, He will enable virtue and piety to almost stem from this feeling. It is like how they said once, the Mashayikh gave an example, and they said a bird was traveling from one place, like an eagle or a crow, was traveling between one forest and another forest, and in between the two forests was barren land. It was like almost fertile sand, they gave an example of. And they said nothing had ever grown on this land. Nothing had ever grown on this land. It's inhabitable, that people do not go there. It's like if I said to Hamza, tonight I want you to go live on top of Pendle Hill, or somewhere in the middle of a farm. He'll say, how am I supposed to eat? How am I supposed to live? There's no electricity, there's no Wi-Fi. How is he supposed to play his games? For example. And they said once this bird was flying between two places, and the bird was taking seeds in the mouth for himself, for his offspring, for the bird's offspring. The bird encountered another bird at the same time, and it tried to attack this bird carrying the seeds in the air. The seeds dropped from the mouth of the bird. So the seeds fell onto this barren ground. They said after about 10 or 11 months, it was filled with fields of crops and flowers. And then everyone wanted to make this place of habitat. Like they wanted to live here, they wanted to migrate here. So the communities around, they wanted to move to this place. And the Mashayikh gave an example that sometimes when you restrict yourself so much, or you're preventing harm, meaning the bird was preventing harm, that actually goodness will come from it. And sometimes so much goodness can come from this that it actually benefits unknowingly. Like even you do not know. Even you do not know that this is the benefit that is happening, that has occurred. He will provide for you with necessary means. He will provide for you the means. So what is it? The enablement of means. Again, we relate to the story of the bird. That the means came for them communities where they thought it was nothing, it wasn't never going to happen. And some say that the wisdom of the saliva in the they said the seeds actually started to ripen within the mouth of the bird. Such is the travel. That say the stem or something started to grow whilst the seeds were in the mouth of this bird. That is why they grew. Number 4 is that when this happens, so firstly you seek fulfillment, then a person is enabled to act out on a virtuous life. The means have been enabled for him. And the 4th one is he becomes content with the will of Allah. That he becomes content. How do we simplify and summarize contentment? Contentment meaning that you are happy with whatever Allah has given to you, but that's not all. Whatever, and you are happy what Allah has given to you, and Allah is happy what you are giving to Him. That's true contentment. Meaning that what you do in service of people, in the service of religion, Allah does not need, but you still give. Number 5, he obtains prophetic, worthful qualities, valuable qualities, such as thankfulness, humility, patience. And in all this is honor. You see, it is almost like a story that what happens when one thing becomes another. Number 6, lastly, the descent of the rahmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the fadl. And what is the fadl of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this world? The unknown pleasure and closeness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, meaning it's unknown. You will never know you have, but it will be present within the person. I cannot say one person has obtained the pleasure of Allah, nor can say anyone about me. But you can say that this person has qualities that Allah likes. This person has dedication and commitment like Allah likes, like Allah prefers, like Allah loves. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, وَإِذْ تَأَذَنَّ رَبُّكُمْ لَإِن شَكَرْتُمْ. If you are thankful, I will give you more. لَأَزِيدَنَّكُمْ وَلَإِن كَفَرْتُمْ إِنَّ عَذَابِي لَشَدِيدٌ. But if you are ungrateful, my punishment is terrible indeed. That if you show ungratefulness to what Allah has decreed for you, Allah has given you a warning here that the punishment is there too. And this comes off what people say, oh, why me? Why is this happening to me? Say something bad happens to a person, oh, why me? Why am I suffering? Why am I feeling pain? This is that definition. This is that ungratefulness. Or someone passes away, why have they passed away? It should have been me. You see people when they wail and cry. This is what happens to that person. Allah and the Mashayikh have gone on to say, Sayyidina Abdul Qadir Jilani, whatever is not destined for you, however, you must survive without it by uprooting and carving it from your heart. So whatever is not meant for you, get rid of that desire. You want to be a millionaire, and you know you're never going to be a millionaire, uproot and carve out the desire. You want 10 wives, you are never going to get 10 wives. Even there's restriction in the religion. You want to have the best job, you want to have the best car. Sometimes it's better to accept you're not going to have these things and be happy with what you have. It has recently been mentioned, I think Brother Farasat mentioned a couple of weeks ago, that if we were to go back 1,000-2,000 years ago, our lives are like the kings of that time. Even then they could not eat as they wished. I see, like maybe my missus will say about me, and she will say, I say I want this food, no problem, we'll go and get it. I can say 1 o'clock at night, I'm hungry, Chalo, there's takeaway. These people did not have these luxuries. If they wanted something, they would have to wait for it. They'd have to wait for the butcher, they'd have to find the animal, kill the animal, find it, poach it, kill it, cut it, cook it. Whereas there's already millions and millions and millions of dead carcasses, dead animals ready to be cut, cooked and eaten. Whereas these people never had this luxury. Yes, some maybe had farms and they had a variety of animals, but it didn't necessarily mean that they had this life of these high-level luxuries. They had wealth, but the way they could spend their wealth is not like how we can spend our wealth. They could maybe get one portion of land and that's it. They could get 2 portions of lands and that's it. Even then it might go outside of their known territory and they couldn't even acquire that land except by war or by force. If we want something, we want to migrate anywhere in the world, a person has the means, they can go. They can even go and buy the land. If they want to go buy land in Thailand, or if they want to go buy land in America, they can go and do so. There's no problem. So you see, what happens in this situation is that we start to forget that who we are and where we have come from. 2 very important questions. You are the spirit, and you have come from the world of spirits, where every unknown and known desire was created there. The spirit of that desire, the spirit of the want for wealth, the want for women, the want for cars, horses, houses, land, space. All these desires were known there. The want to have the best food, the want to have the best company, the want to have the best people, the best teachers, the best whatever, all existed within the world of spirits. That is why our spirit knows of these things, and that is why it desires these things. Because all these feelings, these desires have a source, have a root. But in this life, you cannot obtain some of them. They are too unrealistic. So the way to remove it is by doing the course of self-purification, the inner removing and the uprootment and the carving of those desires. That is that course of purification that you know about. And one thing that really saddens me more than anything is that what is it going to take inside you to realize that just you benefiting and the people around you are not? When will you wake up to this reality? It is almost, a person could almost cry that there is the same type of majlis sitting in a gathering now. He could be rocking, swaying right to left, listening to nasheed about the love of the Prophet ﷺ. How can the love of the Prophet ﷺ live within a heart that is full of gand and dirt? How? How can such purity accommodate this place? If I said to any of you, go live amongst the dirtiest of animals, go live in the most dirtiest of houses. Oh no, I'm not doing that. Oh, it smells. Oh, there's stuff on the floor. Oh, the carpets are stained. It's dusty. It's damp. But yet, how can the most purest of creations, that spirit, that love, live in a heart which is contaminated? It cannot. It's impossible. That is why the love of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is absent in our hearts. It's absent. It doesn't exist. If the true love was there, you would not care what anyone or whoever says or talks about you in the most harshest of words, in the most derogatory, most belittling of manners. A person would still be happy. So, if you truly look and contemplate into this reality, that is what they have said. Whether the self is willing or reluctant, practice patience and oppose your desire. Hold fast to the commandment of the law and accept the degree of the providence. The providence is the one of provision, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself. hoping thereby to receive divine fadl, grace and favor. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said, قُلْ يَا عِبَادِي الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا اتَّقُوا رَبَّكُمْ لِلَّذِينَ أَحْسَنُوا فِي هَذِهِ الدُّنْيَا حَسَنَةً. That those who patiently preserve will truly receive a reward without measure, immeasurable reward, a reward that you cannot even think of, a reward you cannot even contemplate. So inshallah we will end on this note, and inshallah if anyone has any questions, including our sisters at the back, try to keep it topic related, and inshallah we will, if you could ask it to Amna, and then she will text over to myself the questions, and if I do not have the answer, inshallah I will definitely seek the answer for you, and if I do make a mistake, that is from myself, and all goodness has come from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Any questions? Adam?
So, you know the part about uprooting the desire and other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
How do you know when something's not destined for you? And then, so let's say you want good grades.
You want good praise?
Good grades or anything.
Good grades,
you want
okay.
to become a millionaire or something. How do you know that's not destined for you? That to get to that part, you're going to have to go through trials and not give up and
Yeah. The first part of your question, meaning that how do we know? How do we know if we will achieve, or how do we know if we cannot get that? Really, there always is that part of something that is completely unrealistic. It's like the example of having 10 wives. You cannot have 10 wives. Religiously, physically, you cannot actually. The brother wants to come in. If you want to, thingy. So Rande, I think the space at the back in the side room. So, if a person wants to know what is unrealistic, you have to, firstly, it is like a process. Know what is in your power, know what is achievable, and then you do your absolute maximum to achieve that. Do your absolute maximum to achieve that. For example, the element of good grades. 1 minute, we're just going to open the door. So the element where a person, they know, is because of what happens is he has to self-determine or self-analyze what is realistic and what is unrealistic. So things that are realistic, that I can maybe go and buy a car, or I can maybe go and buy a house, or I can marry once. These are all realistic aims a person can achieve. These are all completely normal desires a person can have. Then you have to determine that are these things getting in the way of me and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For example, a person might have a goal. I want to save up £15,000 or £20,000 within 2 years, for example. If you are set out on this goal and for some reason you know that your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has hastened or stopped, know that this is a burden upon you. This is where one of the indicating points that actually you're not achieving Allah's pleasure, and the desire has overtaken and overridden that initial desire to achieve Allah's qurb and nearness. That is why people who work excessively, there's always some type of void. There's always void, because what happens is, it's like if I don't come here, or if I don't attend the majalis of zikr and nasiha, no matter where I am or how I am, there is always a sense of void, a sense of unfulfillment. Something is missing in my week, in my day. So I know that these are positive signs. But if a person, he does not feel this, or he completely ignores that feeling and ignores that thought, then what happens is actually it's a problem, it's a burden inside him or her. And what's the other question on the email?
Thank you.
Achha. So, so just to summarize again, the question is again, contemplate or reflect on its realistic, if it's realistic or not. Do whatever is in one's means and ability to carry out those actions. And then thirdly, if they are getting in the way of you achieving Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's pleasure and closeness, like the example I gave regarding saving money, and actually next week is about the prohibitions of desiring wealth. So inshallah, what happens is that we cover up to this stage, and then we talk about the wealth and how it actually brings a person away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's what happens sometimes. A person, they want to work, and actually they sacrifice Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for this. Meaning, within their effort. So for example, people who are self-employed, people who work within their own time, within their own effort, these people actually mention. And is there any questions from the back? I don't know. Have I asked anything? Hamza? So you fully understood everything. So if I give you this, you can tell me back. अच्छा ठीक है फिर अच्छा ठीक है इंशाल्लाह we'll move on to the zikr